CSP says some truck drivers ignoring the safety rules are what shut down I-70 during the storm, and now we know just how many of them got tickets for it. The citizen board that watches the Denver Police Department says it is not clear that DPD is keeping its promises of reform.
We probably don't know the full scope of noncompliance.
Painting is his path to communicate, and his school decided that was worthy of a special honor.
He's able to express the things that he can't speak through projects like this.
And the day after we saw feet of snow in places, of course your Friday good news is coming to you from a golf course of sorts. Let's wrap up the week together tonight on Next. It's all over but the plowing. The great slushing of 2024 has begun after one of the biggest snowstorms to hit the foothills in recent history. Heaviest snow fell in Clear Creek and Gilpin counties, an astonishing 5 feet reported in one spot, Aspen Springs. I didn't know what Aspen Springs was. Apparently, it's like an area, a neighborhood north Blackhawk in Gilpin County. Clear Creek got 3 to 4 feet of snow. Both Clear Creek and Gilpin have declared a local state of emergency. That frees up resources and potential state funding. Suburbs south and west of Denver also got walloped. At least 22 inches of snow in Castle Rock. That's their biggest snowstorm since March 2003. So we've been waiting to find out how many semi-truck drivers would get ticketed for the crashes that closed I-70 for parts of 2 days. The Colorado State Patrol was clear. It was trucks. Piles of unprepared truck drivers and their loads that were the problem. So how many tickets for those messes? 12. Here's Steve Steger.
I feel the citizens' pain and I understand the frustration when you get stuck behind them for hours on end.
But that pain wasn't enough to inflict a whole lot of other pain on the truck drivers who caused the mess on I-70 Wednesday night and Thursday. Colorado State Patrol Sergeant Patrick Rice says in all of that mess, troopers only wrote 12 tickets to drivers who weren't prepared to be on the road during the worst of the worst.
Those 12 that were written most likely came from trucks that were so stuck that we had to sit behind them and wait.
Truckers who didn't chain up could face a $600 fine if they blocked the road after not chaining up to $1,000. Rice couldn't tell us what range those 12 tickets fell into, but he says in an emergency situation like the one we saw yesterday, the priorities change.
And once we get into the emergency and crisis mode of the road being blocked up, we're more interested in getting the road open and moving.
Rice says since the traction law kicked in September, they've ticketed 800 truckers for breaking the rules, most of them in non-emergency situations. We also wondered about this. Maybe you sharp-eyed folks noticed this during our coverage last night.
Commercial vehicles like the ones that caused last night's shutdown have been ordered to stay off the interstate.
Yep, that's a commercial vehicle shown live on Next driving down the interstate when commercial vehicles were told to stay away.
The restriction that we placed on trucks for going into the I-70 corridor yesterday evening is largely voluntary compliance. Very difficult for us to enforce with a handful of troopers already playing catch up on the pass.
Part of the reason they have to show that the driver knowingly entered that area, knowing that they couldn't do it. So the serious narc I am, I asked Rice if there's any way to retroactively ticket those truckers after they clear the road off. He says that's tough because a lot of these trucks belong to large companies, tough to sort out who was where and when during all the chaos. We've asked State Patrol for all of those tickets just to try to see what we can figure out through all that data, Kyle, because they were the problem.
Yep.
And you wonder who they belong to and who was responsible for making sure they're prepared as they're making their way up to the mountain.
And if the conversation was there were way more than 12 problematic trucks and only 12 got tickets, my guess is that's the kind of thing that gets around, right? Gets around in the business. In the same way that the semis just drove on I-70 last night, even when they told them not, right? It's just voluntary compliance, so do whatever you want. Do whatever you want, apparently, is the way that some of them operate.
I mean, the State Patrol argues that they're trying to catch these people on the front end, right? They've written 800 tickets between September and now, so the start of the traction law and now. The goal is to try to catch them beforehand, prepare people when there is a problem like this. The question is, are people getting that message? It would appear not in a storm like that they're not getting the message from the 800 tickets written beforehand.
All right, Steve Steger, thanks for tracking that down today.
Yep.
Frequent closures on I-70 could soon create a new set of problems for mail delivery on the western slope because the Postal Service is considering a proposal to process all the mail from western Colorado in Denver. So like you mail something in Delta to Hotchkiss and they'd ship it over here to Denver, then ship it back to take it a couple of miles. The Postal Service wants to consolidate its regional processing centers around the country to save money. Grand Junction's regional processing center is under review. The Postal Service says slimming it down to a local distribution center could save $3 million a year. That plan then would require mail to be sent over to Denver for processing, then sent back west for delivery. 20 Democratic senators, including Colorado's Michael Bennet, pushed back against that idea in a letter this week. They say that the frequent closures of I-70 could delay time-sensitive mail like prescriptions and ballots. Steve Bacher, whose career in business and Democratic politics crumbled with a series of fraud allegations, died in prison today. Bacher was serving 3 years for fraud at the Rifle Correctional Facility. The coroner says he died of natural causes. Bacher worked in the Clinton White House, then for Colorado Governor John Hickenlooper. He was a prominent supporter of a number of Colorado Democrats. He was stripped of his law license for misconduct related to contracts for pandemic supplies, sentenced to prison last year for defrauding investors. Steve Bacher was 58 years old. This week's storm is already in the rearview mirror with today's gorgeous weather, but it is one that we will probably remember for a while. A ton of you have written in with your kudos for meteorologist Chris Bianchi's tireless work this week. I think that guy slept about 6 hours in 2 days. His very last assignment before some well-deserved time off was filing this report on why that storm was so remarkable.
Well, the snow is over and done with, as we all know, but how will we remember this storm? I think there's kind of two distinct things that we'll take away from this snowstorm. First, for the south and west sides of the metro area, biggest snowstorm since March 2003. And the amount of water within this storm, stunning as well, and a huge gradient in totals. The airport, less than 6 inches of snow. You go about 50 miles west of there, and we saw over 5 feet worth of snowfall, so a huge gap in snowfall totals. The foothills, these will likely rank for us here in the foothills as our biggest snowstorm since March of 2003. And same for us here on the south and west sides of the metro area, where we picked up well over 2 feet of snowfall in many cases. But then there's the amount of water within that snow. And a lot of you walking around through the snow know just the amount of kind of water that's packed within this. At the Centennial Airport, we picked up almost 3 inches of water. For context, that is about 4 times what you typically get in the entire month of March just from this single storm. And for the Centennial Airport, by the way, wettest March storm on record. Records there go back to 1998. So for many different reasons, this storm will go down in the history books. But I think it's the water and the snowfall totals in the foothills and the south side of the metro area that will remember this storm for a long, long time. Oh, yes. I didn't realize. Awesome. Thank you.
That is the sound of a man being told, you're done. You can go home and rest, Crispy Donkey. Go rest. So Denver has made some huge payouts in recent years for police misconduct and promised big policy changes. But an oversight board in Denver says it's not clear how often those changes actually happen. They found a few examples where the city didn't follow through or only did part of the work. Here's Kelly Rinke.
We are now starting to understand that we are really at the tip of the iceberg.
How big of an issue this is remains unclear, but a police watchdog group thinks a few examples is enough for concern.
You know, as a taxpayer, I'd like the city to be, spending my tax dollars on things that make the city better rather than, accounting for the mistakes of departments.
Denver Citizen Oversight Board said the city pays millions of dollars to settle lawsuits involving misconduct, but in some cases, the city failed to comply with other terms like policy changes.
We want to make sure that, the systems are changed as a result of these specific incidents.
The chair of the group, Julia Richman, wants to make sure Denver follows through to hopefully prevent misconduct in the future. She says finding out how many cases this includes is difficult.
What we're finding is that there is no good system for identifying all of the terms. It's not captured centrally or in, a database of any kind.
And she's getting different answers on who's responsible for holding public safety agencies accountable.
It's just really unclear whose responsibility it is to track and ensure the work is being done.
Denver makes agreements in court to settle cases of misconduct. Learning how often the city may be breaking promises could take the board months.
We are really just sort of opening the bag of puzzle pieces at this point.
The board suggests it may be a good idea for the city to publish the terms it agrees to and track when those are completed. They're hopeful progress can be made on this issue this year, Kyle.
I mean, if we think about how to spend money to save money, the reform seems like a good way to save money in the long run.
Yeah, I mean, we're talking about the Citizen Oversight Board said that Denver paid more than $15 million in these misconduct lawsuits alone last year. So if we figure out how to make these policy changes or ensure that those terms are being met, maybe that can prevent payouts in the future.
All right. Kelly Rinke, my sweater twin today. Thank you for that.
Even though he's very limited, he still has very, diverse ways to communicate with us.
And that classmate of his is finding a way to express his voice through an art project. And as snow turned to sun, we turn to you for our end of the week pick-me-up. Anything that's good in your life is news here next.
Hopefully you had fun in our big March snowstorm like this little one, measuring the snow all the way up to his little thighs there. We had 10 to 20 inches of snow across the metro area, 2 to 4 feet in the foothills, but that storm is moving out. We have a cool, calm evening, sunshine coming in for your weekend and warmer weather to boot. Some of the more impressive totals, Aspen Springs and Gilpin County at 61 inches, 53 in Nederland, Eldora with 46, Genesee with 45, DIA officially 5.7, but again, 10 to 20 inches of snow to melt off in downtown Denver. Winds are shifting, coming in out of the south. That's going to help to warm us up. The main system is still sitting and spinning west and south of us, cut off from the main flow. Will not be impactful for Denver, but may bring additional snow into the southern mountains. We've got winter weather and travel advisories that will remain in effect through the evening hours tonight. Other than a little bit of fog in Denver, we've got a quiet period of weather, but be mindful of the avalanche danger in the Colorado high country as we've had a lot of snow up that way. We've got fair skies tonight, a bit of patchy fog late tonight and tomorrow. Beautiful evening and a really nice looking weekend. For St. Patrick's Day, how about sunshine and 48? Spring arrives on Tuesday with sunshine and 62. Next chance for showers not until the end of next week. Have a great weekend.
Winning a 5th grade art expo isn't typically headline news around here, but tonight our Mike Grady wants to introduce you to a young man whose project is the talk of Blue Mountain Elementary in Longmont.
All right. Do you want to choose a different instrument? Yes or no?
Through self-expression,
yes. Okay.
We show the world who we are. Leo Stewart is as creative as a 5th grader gets.
Good job, buddy.
At Blue Mountain Elementary in Longmont, his teacher, Carrie Starks, along with friends like Brecken Sparling,
Do you think...
help Leo figure out how to express himself.
Do you want to hear the rest of the song?
Yes or no?
He can't talk or walk or do a lot of things most 10-year-olds can.
I'm not sure. I forgot the name.
Leo has cerebral palsy. It impacts his muscles and his independent movement of his body.
He still has very, diverse ways to communicate with us.
Ways that go beyond the walls of this classroom.
It's not going to be here or here.
Okay, bud, you're going to have to push your button to do your presentation, okay?
Here, let's see. Maybe I'll stand over here.
With some help from his parents, Brad and Antoinette,
To read this thing.
and a technological assist, Leo tells us about his proudest work.
I named my artwork Freedom to Move because one day I dream to have the freedom to move all on my own.
His painting won first place in the adaptive arts category at Blue Mountain's 5th grade expo last week.
He was so happy.
The W feels good, but getting to know Leo a little better is what really matters.
And he's able to express the things that he can't speak through projects like this.
You know, if you have an open heart and you're, accept people for what they can and cannot do, then, the possibilities are endless.
We could make our variables.
So whether through music or art or making video games,
So Leo, we can't have this before that, otherwise it's not going to work. So.
it's easy to see who Leo Stewart is.
He's just a really cool friend.
For Next, I'm Mike Grady.
Say good job. No going to sleep.
You helped me code.
Freedom to move. So Leo's currently working on some other paintings, ones made for his friends and his family.
My good news is that I'm at Johnny Roberts Frisbee Golf Park on a Friday.
Inches of snow on the ground means that golf's going to be out of the question, but disc golf? Oh yeah, let's go. We're back with your answers to our favorite Friday question next. All right, let's get on with it. We have had our last snowstorm of the official winter, so the next one is technically going to be a spring storm. And it gives way today to our favorite Friday question. What's your good news?
We play disc golf, is what we do. Another round disc golf in tap room. We sell tons of discs or frisbees, people will hate me for saying that, and alcoholic beverages, mainly beer. My good news, I've got quite a bit of good news. My good news starts with being engaged. Got my engagement party is next weekend, and hopefully soon to be wedding this year as well.
I think Smudge likes the camera.
We have Kersmudgeon, Smudge here, the disc golf kitty. And then we got Dobby behind the bar back here with Mr. Brandon.
Smudge is the best news. I just got Smudge a few weeks ago. He's 15 weeks old now. He's just a little baby.
My good news is I have an opportunity to be a teacher, a massage therapist teacher.
No, I'd be hard-pressed to play today.
It's not happening.
We call them crazy, but they call themselves passionate. And that's just disc golf.
My good news is that it's a beautiful day and I got to play disc golf.
What's wrong with them? But we're in Colorado, so it makes sense.
My good news is that my best friend Spencer is in town for the weekend and just exploring and hanging out in Denver together.
My good news is that I'm here with my best friend Stacy. We're excited to have the day off. We're both speech therapists, and one of my students got introduced to a device to communicate, and he has loved it and has been having a great time with it.
My good news is that I'm at Johnny Roberts Frisbee Golf Park on a Friday.
We're back with your feedback about the very mysterious locale of Aspen Springs. It's 5 feet of snow. Next. Colorado's volunteer search and rescue teams have been ready to go out in all kinds of nasty weather this week should people find themselves stuck in remote locations. And you have been helping those nonprofits in each of Colorado's 64 counties get the gear and training that they need and often have to pay for themselves. You have raised nearly $45,000 so far through this week's Word of Thanks microgiving campaign to create smaller grants to go out to these search and rescue teams for their various smaller needs. A few $1,000 here and there. Scan the QR code on your screen or text the word thanks to 303-871-1491 to donate. So we've heard from a bunch of you wondering where in the world Aspen Springs is, this area that got more snow than anywhere else in the state during the latest storm. Linda says, I believe it's north of Mancos. No, it's way down southwest. Apparently earlier today, we said it was near Pagosa Springs. That's not right either. That's a different one. This is the Aspen Springs that we're talking about, all right? So you're looking at Blackhawk in Gilpin County. This whole map area is north of I-70 as you're headed up the hill. And as you leave Blackhawk going north on 119, headed for Rollinsville and eventually Netherland, that is where like the neighborhood or subdivision or whatever you want to call it of Aspen Springs is. That is the area that got all that snow. Thanks for hanging with us on kind of a wild week around here. We'll see you on Monday.